The new inflation report is in, and inflation has dropped, they say, through January, but just slightly. Still coming in hotter than they expected, but still considerably over inflated dollars from this point last year. So we'll talk about that, what that means, and what the core CPI is doing as well, which is actually putting a little bit more heat onto what the American public feels. So we'll go over some of that and what that means and where we go from there. In other news, another mass shooting in this country, this time in Michigan State. However, the suspect is not somebody who the mainstream media wants to talk about very much. So we'll go over some of that and what that means and where this is going to get memory hold. Nikki Haley makes it official. Nikki Haley is announced that she is running for president, challenging Trump, lying about her promise if Trump sought re-election again. So we'll be talking about that and, well, why I don't care about that. And Dianne Feinstein forgets that she announced that she's not running for re-election for 2024 into the 2025 Senate term. So we'll be talking about that. It is going to be all this and more. I got more votes than Kevin McCarthy. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is your evening news. We've got a lot to go over here today, and a lot of it is left over from yesterday because we had a large amount of that was left over, but we still have some things to talk about here as we talk about your news. So, before we get started, let's make sure everybody goes and checks out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and more as we come together to bring you a news and culture experience that is from the common man for the common man. And by the way, I do have to go check out and see if some of these people are even intending to come back and create again. I know it's been forever since I've had an alert from the R-Rated Conservative, which is a shame because I really, really, really enjoy that show. But I do hope that he's doing well in his new venture where he lives now. I hope that we will hear from him again because that was one of the better voices in news. Birkenhoff, I know, is working with school, but I know he did just put out a new video not that long ago, so we'll be talking about that. The Daily Ignoramus coming on every day, daily, taking up some of my old time slot too, by the way, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, we've got a lot of people out here, and we're coming together to bring you a better news experience, hopefully from the common man for the common man. And hopefully we will be looking at getting a website up and starting getting some writers in here, maybe getting some new programming as well. But go check out all that great programming that is available to you as we attempt to bring you a news and culture experience that is from the common man for the common man. And let's get into the news of the day. Let's get started, as we always do, while we wait for our friends to gather here. And by the way, tell a friend and tell maybe 2, 3, 10 friends about this program here, because it's the only way we can grow. We are being throttled actively by YouTube, and I have not thought to put the politics moniker up on the new time slot over in Twitch, because I know that we're going to bring in every single leftoid out there at this time slot. But go tell some friends and get us out of the algorithmic demotion and get some more people in here to chat with us. I do check in with the chat while we are going here. I don't typically go deep into it because we do have a lot to go over, and we are sticking to that 2-hour time slot. So but if you do get some commentary in there, I will definitely go and I'll see it because I always have the live chat up. But I will also get your names into the notebook here and give a thank you to everybody who chats in the live chat at the end of the day. Also a reminder, on the Instagram side, because we are sharing to Instagram again, that you will not see the majority of the programming here if you're watching this on Instagram. In fact, you'll probably see cuts where I'm just sitting here watching the screen because while we're on Instagram, I cannot broadcast what's going on up in the upper corner above me as I can when I'm over on YouTube. So you're only getting a partial little bit of the contemporary experience, and we will be watching videos. There's some music that goes on here, and we can't integrate you in with the rest of the live chat either, but I do hope that this will be changing at some point in the near future, because it does look like, and I have not checked into how it works, but there has been a beta test of transmitting Restream out to Instagram, so I'll be seeing how that works, definitely, because if I can bring in a new audience somewhere where I'm actually already established as well, I'd love to see that, and I'd love for our Instagram audience as well to be able to come in and join in with the festivities. But that's enough about what's going on the channel here. Let's get into the news and let's get started. And we're going to start, as we always do, looking at the Dow, looking at the finance, and that's our best way to go in and gather people in here as we go. So let's see what the Dow has going on over here. Looking in at what we have here, the Dow tumbled throughout the day. It did recover most of where it was before after it fell off after we got the new inflation report, but it did end down at 34,089.27. That is down 156.66 points, which is an ominous set of numbers that could be together here, or about 0.5%. So that's where we're at for that. Looking at your Bitcoin, which actually had a up day coming off of this, the Bitcoin tumbled throughout the beginning of the day before shooting up, losing some of that ground and then recovering most of that ground back again, ending the day at $22,240 and 30 US cents. That is up $452 and 50 US cents. 2% gain on the Bitcoin today. Your gas prices in the Madison area still largely unchanged. Still holding steady where I'm at as well after the weekend jump, but the Madison area did not see the weekend jump. These gas prices do not reflect necessarily the gas prices where you are, but give a benchmark of the single market that we can continue to track until the gas prices come back to a normal area. So that's what we see coming for that. Let's see what IBD has to say, and then we will get into the main news of the day. We start today with Investors Business Daily. Dow Futures, market rally shrugs off hot inflation. Tesla races higher. Airbnb flies on earnings. From Ed Carson. Dow Futures fell slightly after hours along with the S&P and the Nasdaq. Airbnb soared late on earnings while CRDO stock plummeted on a warning. Shopify leads results before Wednesday's open. The market rally closed mixed, well off session lows despite the hot January CPI inflation report. The headline and core CPI inflation rates both continue to drift lower, but by less than Wall Street expected. And do remember that this is inflation on top of inflation at this point. Treasury yields ultimately rose once again. Markets price in further Federal Reserve rate hikes. A number of leading stocks flashed buy signals Tuesday, including Boeing, Arista Networks, Wingstop. Man, I could go for some Wingstop. I say that every time they talk about Wingstop, but I haven't had that since I lived in Kenosha. Cadence Design Systems and Marriott International. Is there a Wingstop up here? I'm going to look for that after the show. Tesla, which has surged in 2023, revved higher Tuesday, despite declining weekly Tesla EV registrations declining last week. Airbnb and TripAdvisor led key earnings reports late on Tuesday. Airbnb flew into a buy zone just after hours as Airbnb earnings beat views with guidance also strong. TripAdvisor jumped late on its results, closing Tuesday back above a buy point. However, Credo Technology Group crashed after hours after warning of a massive shortfall in its April fourth quarter. It sees revenue of $30 million versus $32 million versus views for $58 million, saying its largest customer is cutting back. Credo Technology Group stock, which had been trading near record highs, dove more than 45% overnight. In other news, Berkshire Hathaway disclosed its quarter 4 earnings. Berkshire continued to add to its Apple stake, but sold off of all of its Taiwan Semiconductor shares after buying them in quarter 3. Taiwan Semiconductor stock fell modestly overnight. Yeah, the lurks are always welcome, and I've done that with your show numerous times as well, so. Let's see. E-commerce software giants, Shopify, Biogen, Analog Devices, Trade Desk, Roblox, Taylor Morrison Home, and much more are on tap early Wednesday. So we'll be watching for that. Wingstop is on the IBD leaderboard. BA, what was BA? Boeing is on Swing Trader. Credo stock is an IBD long-term leader. Cadence Design, Wingstop, and Arista Networks are on the IBD 50. ADI and Arista networks are on the IBD Big Cap 20. So that's what we see coming off the markets on the futures. Dow futures dipped 0.1 versus fair value. The S&P fell 0.1 and the NASDAQ lost 0.1. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that is where we are at on the markets. But I do have a couple more that we're going to use on finance because they'll be talking about the gas prices, the other big thing that we talk about when we look at our finance for the day. Reporting from Reuters. U.S. to sell 26 million barrels of oil reserves as mandated by Congress. And this is actually a little interesting because this is from a mandate that came from 2015, back when Trump was in office, which I'm a little surprised by. And oddly enough, Biden actually tried to stop this, which is weird because he just went back and pulled 180 million barrels out of there. But let's read from Timothy Gardner. The Biden admin said Monday it is selling 26 million barrels of crude from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, a release that had been mandated by Congress in previous years. The Department of Energy had considered canceling the fiscal year 2023 sale of the 26 million barrels after the Biden admin last year sold a record 180 million barrels from the reserve. But such a cancellation would have required Congress to act, and, well, we know that they can't do that. Monday's announced sale will likely temporarily push the reserve below its current level of 372 million barrels, its lowest level since 1983. The Department of Energy said bids on the oil are due on February 28th and that the oil would be delivered from April 1st to June 30th. So we'll actually see a springtime probably break in gas prices, which would be nice right in time for Easter. The admin sold the 180 million barrels of oil to combat fuel prices that had risen on Russia's war in Ukraine and as global consumers emerged from the pinko-pox pandemic. That is a lie, of course, because they were already up above key levels beforehand. The department said it's implementing a three-part strategy to refill the reserve in the long term, including repurchases with revenues from emergency sales, returns of more than 25 million barrels of oil from previous exchanges, and working with Congress to avoid unnecessary sales unrelated to supply disruptions to strategically maintain volume. Well, the first thing you could have done was not sold 180 million barrels to cover up for your own incompetence. Last month, the department rejected the first batch of bids from oil companies to sell back up to 3 million barrels to the reserve, saying it would only accept bids for oil meeting required specifications at a price that was a good deal for taxpayers. The admin had been seeking to repurchase oil for the stockpile at about $70 a barrel. Well, good luck. It's going to be a while before we get there, and we're going to have a completely different president in office by that point. But crude oil prices have risen to about $80 a barrel on concerns about Western sanctions on Russia for its war in Ukraine, and after Moscow said it was cutting production in March by about 500,000 barrels per day, or about 5%. U.S. sources have said the delivery of the first batch of oil back to the SPR after the record sale would likely begin not until after the 2023 fiscal year, which ends in September. It's probably going to be longer than that, unless they're going to bite the bullet and take it at a higher rate. The DOE says it expects companies will return 3.1 million barrels of oil to the SPR this fiscal year and 22 million in 2024 from exchanges or short-term loans of oil conducted to help deal with supply concerns in the wake of hurricanes. Last year, Congress canceled sales of about 140 million barrels from the SPR that had been set to take place from fiscal year 24 to 27 after a DOE proposal to stop them. So, in the short term, yeah, we're probably going to get a big dump into the system, and again, the people are going to use that, and the oil companies are going to make big money off of that. Now, with that being said, hopefully this means that if this will push oil down far enough, well, hopefully it'll push down oil far enough that we'll see under $2 a gallon again. That would be definitely nice, but one of the other hopes is that if it gets down to below $60 or something like that, stupid, on a temporary basis, that some of the global markets will take some time and sell it back to the federal government to replenish the stock. Because, I'm sorry, we need that. We really do. Even if I know that it'll hold prices artificially up away from the American consumer, I would rather have, if as long as we're going to live in this society, I would rather have the backup plan there in the strategic reserve, topped off and ready to go, rather than, a little bit of short term, and with Biden in office, very, very short term relief at the pump. Because before we know it, it'll be back up above 3 again. That much I can, with the policies, suggestions that they're doing here, that I can almost promise you that it's going to be up above 3 again if it does drop that far. So that is where they're at, and a little bit of the markets reacting to this from MarketWatch. Oil traders hit sell button with the U.S. set to release more crude from its strategic petroleum reserve. From Myra P. Safong William Watts. I think those are two different people. I think there was supposed to be a comma in here. Oil futures marked their first loss in 3 sessions on Tuesday after the government said it would follow through with a plan to sell another 26 million barrels of crude from its strategic petroleum reserve. West Texas crude for March delivery fell $1.08 or nearly 1.4% to settle at $79.06 a barrel on the New York Mercantile Exchange after back-to-back session gains. April Brent crude, the global benchmark, declined by 103 or 1.2% to 85.58 a barrel on ICE Futures Europe. Back on NYMEX, March gasoline fell 1.7% to 248.85 a gallon, while March heating oil edged up 1.2% to 294.01 a gallon. March natural gas added 6.7% at 257 per million British thermal units after losing 4.3% on Monday. So, and yeah, I mean, if you're not going to make a profit off it, I don't know why you would hold on to your oil stocks. So that is going to put a shake into the markets, and we might see this come in with the futures. But again, I've got no crystal ball. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the markets tomorrow, but we'll continue to watch this and see what happens with this. We've got our main news of the day to get into, and the title card of this program: Inflation. From USA Today, January CPI inflation rate slows to 6.4%. But monthly inflation rose by 0.5%. From Elizabeth Buchwald. Inflation eased for the 7th straight month in January, helped by lower costs for used vehicles and offering some relief to consumers struggling with high prices over the past year. Well, again, and I warned this would happen, used cars are a prime example of this. If you're just sitting on inventory at the dealership, you're not making money. And it's probably going to it's going to hit the new cars too at some point, by the way. I don't think it's going to happen within the year. But if you're just sitting on the inventory, then they've got to move it to make money. The salesmen don't make... Your salesmen, I don't think, typically make a regular salary. They make a commission off of vehicles. I think some of them do have a base salary just to keep them afloat in times like this, but you make your money on the number of cars you sell. And if you can't sell them, then you don't make money, plain and simple. Consumer Price Index data released on Tuesday showed that prices for a range of goods and services rose by 6.4% over the past 12 months, down slightly from an annual rate of 6.5% in December and a 40-year high of 9.1% in June. And by the way, when we're still sitting at 6 and some change percent in June, that will be on top of 9.1% inflation. On a month-by-month basis, however, prices increased by 0.5% in January compared with a slower gain of 0.1% in December. The acceleration was driven by shelter costs. Americans have been struggling with soaring prices last year, resulting in a decline in the real value of their income despite historic wage increases. High inflation has also amplified the risk of a recession. The inflation data follows last month's surprisingly strong labor report, which showed that employers added 517,000 jobs, well above expectations and raising concerns that the economy remains too hot and could keep prices at elevated levels for too long. The latest index news underscores the challenges faced by the Fed, said John Lear, chief economist at Morning Consult. Inflation may have peaked, but it's not showing signs of rapidly returning to the Fed's 2% inflation target. No, we're going to be waiting a while for that. To get there, the Fed will likely have to continue hiking rates higher and longer than many anticipated. Core Consumer Price Index, a measure of inflation that strips away volatile food and energy prices, rose by 0.4 for the second month in a row. That put the annual core inflation rate at 5.6%. Gregory Dako, chief economist at EY, said the rise in Core Consumer Price Index last month isn't cause for concern, since the big jump in shelter prices could mean that there will be smaller increases in the coming months. Well, yeah, you're going to get to a point where people can't afford to do it, and they're not going to go back out and rent a new place. And a lot of them are going to start giving up the places that they have. Dako predicts annual inflation will fall to 2.3% by the end. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Core inflation, he predicts, will fall to 2.8% by then. Good luck with that. Good luck. Rising shelter costs were the biggest contributor to rising inflation last month in the year, accounting for half of the 0.5% increase in prices and 60% of the 6.4% inflation rate. The Labor Department said shelter costs rose by 0.7% last month and are up 7.9% from a year ago. Home prices rose much faster than incomes over the past 3 years, said Bright MLS chief economist Lisa Sturdivant. The Fed's rate increases, which have led to higher mortgage rates, have made the cost of buying a home even more costly. New changes went into effect last month to adjust for shifting consumer spending patterns by design. The index takes into account price increases for more than 200 categories, as well as a portion of the typical American's budget they take up. This is done so the overall index reflects the proportional price changes consumers experience, without taking consumers' budgets into account. The 70% increase in the price for a carton of eggs from a year ago could disproportionately skew the overarching inflation data, which that's actually coming down too, thankfully. Ahead of January's index release, the BLS published a new weights for certain categories, a process it undergoes every 2 years. Moving forward, it will update the weights every year. With the new changes, housing accounts for 44.4% of the index, up from 42.4%. That reflects an increase in the weight for shelter to 34.4% from 33.3%, and rent, also known as owner's equivalent rent, which rose to 25.4% from 24.3%. At the moment, OER is still running hot, so a higher weight will likely keep some upward pressure on core CPI in the near term, said Deutsche Bank economist Jim Reed. Meanwhile, food weight fell to 13.5% from 13.9%. So I just threw a lot of statistics at you, and I apologize for that. But these are the real numbers that are affecting whether you can go out and live your life, buy a new house, live the American dream, buy a new TV, get a new truck, get sports equipment for your kids, eat, for God's sake. There's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of stuff to watch and a lot of stuff to see, but that is where we are at on the inflation. And NPR, who needs your inflated dollars to keep themselves afloat, so hit that donate button, because they cannot tell you how great inflation is and how much you're going to love it without you donating your inflated dollars to them. But they're here to tell you that inflation dropped just slightly in January. And this is from Scott Horsley. We don't have a transcript for this, so we will listen to them. It's about a 3-minute listen. Let's see what it is they have to say. And remember, NPR is never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's hear what they have to say.
Inflation is coming down, but not very quickly. Today we learned the inflation rate in January was 6.4%, down only slightly from the month before. Stubbornly high inflation means that the Federal Reserve is likely to keep raising interest rates, at least for the next few months. NPR's Scott Horsley joins us now. And Scott, what does this new inflation report tell us about which way prices are headed?
It tells us the prices are settling down, but not as quickly as we'd like. The annual inflation rate has fallen for 7 months in a row after hitting a 4-decade high last June. But it's still higher than we were used to back before the pandemic. Just between December and January, prices jumped 0.5%. That was largely as a result of rising rent and food and gasoline prices. Kathy Pszczanczyk, who's chief economist at Nationwide, says that means the Federal Reserve is likely to push interest rates even higher in the coming months as it tries to wring these high prices out of the economy.
The Federal Reserve is a long way away from mission accomplished. They want to see that, continued progress. And they certainly will be concerned if you see some stalling out.
Now, progress in lowering inflation didn't stall out in January, but it certainly slowed, and getting inflation all the way down to the Fed's target of 2% could be even more difficult.
And Scott, why's that?
Well, some of the temporary or one-off things that were driving inflation have already been dealt with. For example, the supply chain snarls that caused a lot of price spikes early in the pandemic have started to come untangled. As a result, we've seen a drop in the price of things like used cars. Gasoline prices, which soared to record highs after the Russia invasion of Ukraine, have come back to earth. Now, housing costs are still high, but they're expected to come down as cheaper rents that we can already see in the market start to show up in the official data. That leaves the price of services, things like auto repair, which has jumped 23% in the last year. The Fed's keeping a close eye on those prices, and they could be harder to control because so much of the price of services is driven by the cost of labor, and that means wages, which typically move in only one direction.
Have rising prices put a damper on people's spending?
Somewhat. Spending did tail off at the end of last year, but forecasters think we could see a nice rebound when the January retail numbers come out tomorrow. Remember, we've added a ton of jobs over the last 12 months, and over the last 7 months, wage growth has actually outpaced inflation. Pszczanczyk says that means a lot of people have money to keep spending if they want to.
Where have wages? I'm so confused by that last statement. Where have wages outpaced inflation? I'm insanely confused by that statement that he just made. Now, there have been the one-offs. If we just consider the 1 year over year, then yes, my wage has outpaced inflation, but it's creeping up in a hurry. It's getting there in a big, big hurry. To the point of, no, I'm actually going to be back in the same boat here pretty soon. And I took a 15% pay raise. And we're getting there. We are getting there again. So I don't know where you're saying that wages have increased beyond what inflation is in the last 7 months. Are you just talking about what's there? Because there were people who lost money big time because wages didn't keep up with inflation for the year before. But yeah, NPR is going to try to spin this in the most rosy way possible because their wealthy donors don't see the effects of inflation. So that's where we're at with that. Let's grab one from the Associated Press. U.S. inflation slows to 6.4%, but price pressures reemerge. We're going to touch on this briefly. Because, we've seen all this. Excluding volatile food and energy costs, so-called core inflation, increased 0.4 last month from 0.3 in December. Core prices rose 5.6% from a year ago, down just a tick from December's 5.7%. In the past 3 months, core prices have risen at a 4.6% annualized rate, which is below the year-over-year number and suggests more declines are coming, but that figure is up from 4.3% in December. Once again, I keep trying to tell you people that unless we're actually getting negative inflation, you're not rising. You're not falling inflation, you're not cooling inflation. But your inflation is catching up to the point that it was at last year. We were at 8.4% inflation at this point last year. And now you're putting 6.4% on top of that and trying to take a victory lap. Are you out of your mind? So far, most of the slowdown in inflation reflects freer flowing supply chains. That's because nobody can afford to buy crap. And earlier declines in gas prices, those factors have sharply reduced inflation in goods including cars, Furniture and toys, overall core goods, prices ticked up just 0.1% in January after declining for 3 months. No, they didn't decline in December either, remember? You just went back and reevaluated December. Furniture prices were unchanged in January for a second straight month and are up just 2.2% from a year ago. Average new car prices rose just 0.2% last month, though they're still at 5.8% more than last January. Used car prices, which have soared in 2021 and early last year amid widespread supply chain disruptions, dropped 1.9% last month. The seventh straight decline, they're now 11.9% lower than they were a year ago. Again, because they don't retain their value nearly as well, and if they're just sitting on the lot, then nobody's making money. So yes, there are pressures on there, especially in the housing end of things, but they're going to try to tell you that everything's fine. This is fine, everything's fine. Just ignore your lying eyes. And the last one I'm going to do with this, I'm going to skip the CNBC one, is one from CBS that I want to touch on here. Because this is the important part. This is food. This is what you have to have every day. Your TV, your used car, your clothes, your furniture, you can typically get by. Maybe getting something from the Goodwill or getting something off of Craigslist or something like that. You will survive if you have to lower your standard of living in your car, in your housing, etc. But you still need food, no matter what. Prices are falling, but not for food. Groceries remain a pain point, from Amy Peachy. Although inflation has fallen for 7 straight months, prices for one item that is a major part of every American's budget continues to rise: the food we eat at home. Grocery inflation picked up in January, even as overall U.S. prices fell slightly from the previous month. According to federal labor data, prices for food at home, what people buy at retailers to prepare their own meals, jumped 11.3% in January from a year earlier, the Labor Department said on Tuesday. Many households continue to feel the pinch, even as overall inflation rate is slowly receding thanks to lower costs for items such as cars and airline fees. Seniors and low-income households are among the most hurt by stubbornly high prices in the grocery aisle. Although Social Security recipients received an 8.7% cost of living increase for 2023, the biggest jump since 1981, the bump still lags food and food costs, while the poor generally spend a greater share of their overall earnings on food. More seniors are pointing to food costs and an ongoing concern, according to the Senior Citizens League, an advocacy group for older Americans. According to our latest survey, 63% of rated food costs are the category of spending that increased the fastest in their households, said Mary Johnson, Social Security and Medicare policy analyst at the Senior Citizens League. This is up 58% who reported food costs as their fastest growing category of spending at this time a year ago. She added food was the leading pain point last year as well. Why are grocery prices so high? High grocery costs stem from a number of issues, including supply chain snags, the avian flu epidemic that's driving up the cost of eggs, which, by the way, that's an accurate point. That's not just an excuse, because eggs are used in almost every other prepared good out there. Climate issues like drought and the war in Ukraine, which has raised the cost of commodities. On social media, consumers complain about being baffled by food prices, as well as stressed over the challenges of budgeting for even higher grocery bills. There's also another school of thought, particularly popular among left-leaning lawmakers and policymakers. Food producers may be raising costs simply because they can. Yes, of course. Of course we're going to go down that road. One corporate watchdog group has accused food manufacturers and retailers of boosting prices unnecessarily, because that was more feasible at a time when consumers are braced for inflation. There you go. It's the billionaires. Food prices should increase at a slower pace throughout 2023 compared with 2022, with the U.S. Department of Agriculture forecasting an 8% increase in grocery costs this year. Ouch! Ooh, that is painful. That would amount to a decline from the 11.8% increase in grocery costs during 2022. Right, but it's still 8% on top of 11.8%. That's the part they're not telling you. It's like, oh, it's less than it was last year. Right, but you're compounding on top of last year. But still means that the consumers at the end of... What? They actually acknowledge this? What? But it still means consumers at the end of 2023 would be paying almost 20% more for the same groceries compared with 2021. Holy crap, they acknowledged it. I'm actually baffled by that. I didn't think that they would. CBS actually gets it. It's compounded on top. So, that is where we are at. Here's one thing that may be driving inflation: all that free money out there. SBA won't even try to collect on PPP loans that are supposed to be paid back, citing equity. From Luke Rosiak. The federal government will not even attempt to recover some coronavirus-related loans that did not meet the conditions for forgiveness, in what could amount to the greenlighting of theft from an $800 billion program. Oh my God, there's going to be theft in a government program? I'm shocked. Okay, I'm not that shocked. The SBA, which administered the Pandemic Aid Paycheck Protection Program, says it will not seek to collect on loans that should have been paid back. But we're not, as long as the amount is $100,000 or less. The vast majority of the 12 million loans given out in 2020 and 2021 were under $100,000. Not just on a worst case scenario. Let's average this out. Let's say that it was 50 grand, because there were going to be a bunch of them that came in lower than that, and there are a bunch of them that are going to be into this that are $99,999. Let's just call this an average of $50,000. I know that's just a rough estimate, but that'll give us an idea. 50 grand times 12 million. Let's get the calculator out. One, two. 1,000 million times 50,000. That is 600. That is a 6 followed by 11 zeros. $600 billion that the SBA is not going to try to recover. The number is going to be slightly in one direction or the other, but it's still going to have that B at the end. The agency's Inspector General, which is tasked with policing waste, fraud, and abuse, sounded the alarm at the SBA's decision, saying its logic does not add up and it should suspend the decision. SBA ending collections on PPP loans valued at 100 grand or less is not in compliance with applicable criteria, the IG wrote. The SBA is potentially increasing the taxpayer burden by missing the opportunity to collect on those delinquent PPP loans, it wrote. Now, I'm going to weigh in on this. Now, number one, first off, I said the PPP program was a bad idea. That's the first part of this. I understand the point, I understand the merits of it, but the PPP in the way that it was written was a bad idea. And in fact, the proper idea would just been not to close down in the first place. But I disagreed with the PPP. With that being said, if I was the IG or the administrator of the SBA, I would understand if the Paycheck Protection Program loan was like 10 grand or less, not collecting on it. I think almost all of them were over 10 grand. But I'm sure that there were a few of them out there that were able to squeak by on a 7 large, maybe. Or something like that. We're talking like really small businesses. 3 or 4 employee businesses. That I wouldn't bother with. But now, when we're talking about going up to $100,000, yeah, you're going to get there. And I understand not going after a $7,000 loan at the federal government level. You'll spend more in court fees just trying to recover that. But $100,000, come on. Let's be serious here. It's said that by openly allowing Americans to keep huge sums of money that they're not entitled to, the federal government is encouraging future fraud against the government. Yeah, like they haven't been doing that for 70 freaking years. Ending collections could set a precedence for future stimulus programs and incentivize ineligible borrowers to obtain loans valued at $100,000 or less. However, continuing to pursue collections will help ensure accountability from delinquent borrowers and promote program integrity, it's said. Most of the loans were forgivable, meaning they essentially converted into a grant. But if recipients did not meet certain conditions, the money was due back. However, the agency is essentially just letting them keep. 1 million borrowers with loans totaling $17 billion have not sought forgiveness for loans under $100,000. So that is going to wind up on your taxpayer burden. That's going to get paid by you and I, or the money printer, one of the two. I was against the PPP loan from the beginning. You know why? Because I knew crap like this was going to happen. It's not hard to predict. It happens with every other government program. Alright, let's stop talking about money for a while. Let's go talk about MSU. There was a shooting in Michigan State University, and we've got the 3 students that were killed who are identified at this point. From WILX10, that's NBC out of Lansing. The 3 students killed in Monday's shooting at Michigan State have been identified. MSU police identified 2 of the victims as Brian Fraser and Alexandra Vernier. Grosse Pointe Public Schools confirmed the 3rd victim is Ariel Anderson. All 3 are from Metro Detroit, a sophomore and president of MSU's Phi Delta Theta chapter, and Anderson, a junior, were both from Grosse Pointe. Verner, another MSU junior, was from Clawson. A statement from Ariel Anderson's family. We lost our precious daughter, granddaughter, sister, niece, cousin, and friend, Ariel Anderson. She means the world to us. As much as we loved her, she loved us and others even more. She was passionate about helping her friends and family, assisting children, and serving people. Driven by her aspiration to tend the health and welfare of the students as a surgeon, she was working diligently to graduate from Michigan State University early to achieve her goals as quickly as possible. As an angel here on earth, Ariel was sweet and loving with an infectious smile that was very contagious. We're absolutely devastated by this heinous act of violence upon her and many other innocent victims. We appreciate the outpouring of love and support and prayers that we have received thus far in grieving and hope that you respect our family's wishes to remain private at this time. The 5 wounded remain in critical condition at Sparrow Hospital. So there was a shooting. I thought that this would actually talk about what happened there, but we'll look into Fox News here. But I mean, we got to throw an F in the chat for the people who were deceased, but also remember the fact that they're not going to get any recognition off of this anymore. And by the way, no mainstream media is even talking about this. You'll notice that my 2 big stories are from local outlets, and then one from the Daily Wire talking about why this wasn't talked about here. From Fox 2 Detroit, Michigan State University shooter found dead from self-inflicted gunshot after hours-long manhunt. From Amber Ainsworth. The shooter, who killed 3 people and hurt 5 others on the campus of Michigan State on Monday, is now dead, police said. He shot himself near Lake Lansing and Larch Roads in Lansing when confronted by police after an hours-long manhunt. Police said the suspect was a 43-year-old man with no affiliation to the school. The buildings where the shootings happened are open to the public. Police say they no longer believe there's a threat and there's no need to shelter in place now. Well, the government still exists, so there's still a threat. According to MSU, shots were fired inside Berkeley Hall at 8:18 p.m., which is on the northern boundary of campus in East Lansing. First responders found shooting victims at Berkeley Hall. The scene moved to the nearby MSU Union, where police also tended to victims. Hey, Blind Fear's here. Police initially said there were 5 people hurt before confirming the 3 fatalities later Monday night. 2 of the fatal shootings happened in Berkeley Hall, while the 3rd fatality was in the MSU Union. Police said the 5 surviving victims are in critical condition. Police at the time would not confirm that the victims were students. MSU Police Chief Chris Rosman stressed during a press conference at 11 that there would have been numerous false reports about the shooting, and where the suspect may have been seen. The shooter was seen leaving the MSU Union on foot from the north side of the building. At 9:26 p.m., police said there was a possibility of another shooting at IM East. However, police later said there were only shootings at Berkeley and the MSU Union. As of 10:10 p.m., Brody Hall, Snyder Phillips Hall, Mason Hall, Abbott Hall, Landon Hall, the MSU Union, and Berkeley Hall have all been cleared and secured, MSU police said. Alumnus Jordan Robinson lives nearby the campus and is about a minute drive from the reported shooting scene. He said he got an alert from university police about the shooting. Robinson said he is sheltered in place at his apartment with his roommates. It's too close, he said. Honestly, I'm fearing right now. I don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. Students were advised to run, hide, and fight. The ATF in Detroit is also helping. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said his office is sending his support to East Lansing. So, he's been found. I think some of this is old from before the fact that they found him, but yeah. There's no more danger, except for, if the government orchestrates something again. But a thought about what's happening here. That thing where they say that, we need more laws to restrict more people from having guns. Well, this is a person again. And part of the reason that we won't be hearing about this anymore, who was not supposed to have a firearm. From the Daily Wire. Suspected MSU gunman was convicted felon, found dead with self-inflicted gunshot wound. From Ash Shao. The man suspected of killing 3 Michigan State University students and critically injuring 5 more has been found dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The 43-year-old suspect, who will not be named due to Daily Wire policy regarding mass shooters, had a previous 2019 conviction for possessing a loaded firearm in a vehicle for which he spent up to 18 months in state prison. The Detroit News reported he was released from supervision in May of 2021. Police had also been called out to the suspect's residence before because he would fire his gun out the back door, possibly for target practice, the news reported. Police released the photos of the suspect, a black male, on Monday night. The Daily Wire previously reported, and shortly after, a report came in of a person matching the description in the Lansing area, according to Chris Rosman, interim chief of the MSU Police and Public Safety Department. When police confronted the man, he reportedly shot himself. He died from his wound. That's interesting. I did not see that at this point. The shooter's brother stated that he thought he had applied at the university for a job, so this may have been retaliatory as well for not getting the job. Yeah, he was on his way to engineering class. A neighbor, Megan Bender, had listened to a police scanner after the shooting and told the news that she believed the suspect was on his way back to their neighborhood when he was confronted by police. She added that she was relieved he wasn't able to return to the neighborhood. Police retrieved 1 firearm from the suspect, but haven't said if search warrants discovered any additional evidence at his residence. Police still don't know why the man traveled to the university and shot the students. Well, we may never know. And what Ron Helton said actually may be true. It may just have been that he had gone to apply there to work and was declined for, maybe not having the right criteria or, with a firearms conviction, not being allowed to be around students. I don't know. Some of those details haven't been released. And by the way, this is not going to get any traction beyond this. So unfortunately, this is all that we have. Here's an interesting take from The Blaze. Gun control activist Pencil Necked Hog admits that mass shootings have increased despite new laws. from Andrew Shapados. Well, let's be realistic here. One of the things that we need to remember is if you really want to stop some of this stuff, the first thing you need to do is enforce the laws on the book. Which means if a person is under the observation of the FBI, maybe we shouldn't be selling him something. Now, that's not going to be a catch-all because, hell, I'm under the observation of the FBI. But if you're known to the FBI for being a psychopath that shoots small animals, or that you're on record for bullying, or being bullied, or making threats to your school, maybe you shouldn't buy a firearm. But David Hogg is starting to see that maybe it's not just going to be one more law. In a recent interview with CBS News, gun control activist David Hogg boasted about gun laws he helped get passed that he says saved the life of his mother, while also admitting that added gun restrictions have not prevented further mass shootings. Hogg and the organization March for Our Lives were vaulted into the spotlight after Parkland, which sparked massive protests across the U.S., predominantly featuring young people who wanted increased gun restrictions. The report states that Hogg acknowledges that gun control laws that have been passed since 2018, including ones that he helped get pushed through, have not stopped an increase of mass shootings in the U.S., but he still believes that they have stopped some. Look, if the government wants a mass shooting to happen for political purposes, that background check is going to get passed. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there were 336 mass shootings in the U.S. in 2018 versus 417 in 2019 and 611 in 2020. CBS News states an unspecified number of approximately 600 for 2022. Yeah, I don't want to go live in Chicago either. Hogg, who was instrumental as one of the organization's frontmen, takes credit for increasing the purchase age for guns in Florida to 21. Yeah, Ron, get on that. As well as passing a red flag law that allowed for law enforcement to seek risk protection orders in the state. Yes, the reason that I won't vote for Ron DeSantis. The activist says that the law saved his mother's life after he says he received a threat that said, F with the NRA and you'll be DOA. This person lived like 20 minutes away from us. We used the law that we created after Parkland to disarm that individual. And because of the law that we passed, it may very well have stopped me from having to bury my own mother, said Hogg. I don't think that was actually a real thing, by the way. So, he's both taking a victory lap and admitting that this actually hasn't done crap. Why? Because people who are going to commit crimes are going to find a way to commit crimes. As evidenced by New York, where it's like an act of God to get a firearm, from USA Today. At least 1 dead and 8 injured after a U-Haul truck driver's violent rampage in New York City. Guys, we need to have common sense U-Haul control. It's time. It's long since time. It's past time. Common sense U-Haul control when? From Donovan Slack and India Yancey Bragg. A man driving a U-Haul truck swerved onto sidewalks and plowed into cyclists and scooter riders in the New York City on Monday, killing 1 person and injuring 8 others, authorities said. Officers responded to a report of a man driving a U-Haul in the Bay Ridge neighborhood. NYPD Commissioner Kee Chant Sewell said at a news conference the vehicle struck multiple people before being stopped by police near the entrance to a tunnel leading from Brooklyn to Manhattan, Sewell said. The driver's arrest ended what Sewell called a violent rampage. We have no indication that there's any terrorism involvement in this incident, she said. A 44-year-old man was killed after he suffered a head injury when he was hit by the truck roughly a half hour after it was struck, the first victim. The police department said in a statement. Yeah, it wasn't the perpetrator, it was U-Haul. That's a good one, Luke. The 9 people struck by the vehicle ranged in age from 30 to 66. All were men. One of the injured people was a police officer. driver was later identified by his son as Wang Sor, 62, a troubled man with a history of harmful behavior and stints behind bars. Sor's son, Stephen Sor, 30, told the Associated Press that his father has a history of mental illness and until recently was living in Vegas, where records show he was convicted and served time for multiple acts of violence, including stabbing his own brother. It's not the gun, it's the intention behind the gun. Common sense U-Haul control now. And I'm going to say right now that with this and with the fact that this guy's got a history, including stabbing his own damned brother, let's make sure that this guy doesn't see the light of day for a good long time. Can we? Please? I mean, if there was justice in the world, then the family of the 44-year-old man would get to choose the guy's fate, but there's no justice in this world either. So that's our violence segment for the day. Let's talk about probably one of the worst things that could happen to this country right now. So I left this on yesterday, and this is a 25-second clip that is the teaser for Nikki Haley. From DailyNoah.com, Nikki Haley posts teaser advertisement for presidential campaign against Trump. Would you vote for her, yes or no? Well, there's 5 of you watching, so I expect 5 answers at this point. One of them is me, so I'm going to put my answer in here right now. No! But let's listen to what the teaser announcement says before we get into the fact that she's actually released.
Is the greatest force for good in human history, and we should never be ashamed to say that.
For those that don't have our back, we're taking names.
I wear heels. It's not for a fashion statement. It's because if I see something wrong, we're going to kick them every single time. Is the greatest force for good in
Yeah. Well, that's her teaser. That was from yesterday. Today, the news is out from the Associated Press. Nikki Haley announces run for president, challenging Trump. Which, by the way, is something that she promised that she would not do. So just keep that in mind when you decide who you're going to vote for. From Meg Kinnard. Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and UN ambassador, announced her candidacy for president on Tuesday, becoming the first major challenger to former President Trump for the 2024 Republican nomination. The announcement, delivered in a tweeted video, marks the about face for her ex-Trump cabinet official, who said 2 years ago she wouldn't challenge her former boss for the White House in 2024. But she changed her mind in recent months, citing, among other things, the country's economic troubles and the need for generational change, a nod to the 76-year-old Trump's age. You should know this about me. I don't put up with bullies. When you kick back, it hurts them more if you're wearing heels. Wow, that is stupid cringe. I'm Nikki Haley and I'm running for president. Let me see if I can find that. I want to see if I can find that video. Yep, from right here. So here's the announcement video from Nikki Haley's own Twitter account. Let me get this over here. Oh, come on. Let's drop that right here, and let's watch the video, which gives us enough time to say goodbye to Instagram. Take care. Yeah, that was cutting off like right there. So we got about a 3-minute video. Let's sit back and have a listen.
The railroad tracks divided the town by race. I was the proud daughter of Indian immigrants. Not black, not white. I was different. But my mom would always say your job is not to focus on the differences, but the similarities. And my parents reminded me and my siblings every day how blessed we were to live in America. Some look at our past as evidence that America's founding principles are bad. They say the promise of freedom is just made up. Some think our ideas are not just wrong, but racist and evil. Nothing could be further from the truth. I have seen evil. In China, they commit genocide. In Iran, they murder their own people for challenging the government. And when a woman tells you about watching soldiers throw her baby into a fire, it puts things in perspective. Even on our worst day, we are blessed to live in America. I was born and raised in South Carolina, so I have seen the very best of our country. People here threw out the old, tired political establishment and demanded accountability for their tax dollars. Industry reports called us the beast of the Southeast, which I loved. People came by the thousands for fresh starts. Moms and dads held their heads up high. Children learned that it was always
It's a great day in South Carolina. It's a great day. It's a great day.
a great day in South Carolina. We were strong. We were proud. And when evil did come,
Police in South Carolina are looking for a gunman following a shooting at a church in
Several
downtown
victims. We
Charleston.
don't know the severity.
we turned away from fear, toward God, and the values that still make our country the freest and greatest in the world. We must turn in that direction again. Republicans have lost the popular vote in 7 out of the last 8 presidential elections. That has to change. Joe Biden's record is abysmal, but that shouldn't come as a surprise. The Washington establishment has failed us over and over and over again. It's time for a new generation of leadership to rediscover fiscal responsibility, secure our border, and strengthen our country, our pride, and our purpose. Some people look at America and see vulnerability. The socialist left sees an opportunity to rewrite history. China and Russia are on the march. They all think we can be bullied, kicked around. You should know this about me. I don't put up with bullies. And when you kick back, it hurts them more if you're wearing heels. I'm Nikki Haley, and I'm running for president.
She did do that. So Nikki Haley is a NID poll candidate, just with that in mind. And by the way, yes, I did get the poll up as Grant asked to. So if you're on the YouTube side, go ahead and hit that. And again, tell a few friends. Let's get in here and let's get the poll going. But oh my God, what? Like she's got good campaign ideas. Like, oh well, we'll bring the jobs and which will probably be made in South Carolina, and I can't be racist because I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks or this side of the tracks. Look, you are a war pig. You are a Bushite. No matter who it is that you used to work for, you are a Bushite. You are the swamp. And I don't want you anywhere near military. Now, a cabinet position here and there. I'm not necessarily opposed to Nikki Haley for a Secretary of Transport. I wasn't real thrilled about her going to the UN as the ambassador. I thought that was a bad idea with her Bushisms and things like that. But, no. Something domestic, definitely. Don't put people like this anywhere near foreign, because they're going to go out and start a war. I'm a little surprised that she didn't manage to do that. But just, if you kick somebody back, it's going to hurt more in high heels. Vote for me. I have a vagina. Make me... I try so hard not to swear on Contemporary, but... Okay, if the nieces and nephew are listening, cover their ears. Make me fucking puke. Good God. Haley, 51, is the first in a long line of Republicans who are expected to launch 2024 campaigns in the coming months. All among them are AstroTurf DeSantis, neocon Mike Pence, war pig Mike Pompeo, and diversity hire Tim Scott. And I say that liking Tim Scott. And I know why they're going to put him in. I don't know how many votes were there, but I know that it's 100% on the vote, which is awesome. I like you guys a lot. President Biden has said he intends to seek re-election in 2024, stalling any jostling for the Democratic nomination. No, they're still going to jostle. They are still going to jostle, you guys. Ooh, Ron Helton, don't pull back. Tell us how you really feel. Haley has regularly boasted about her track record of defying political expectations, saying, "I've never lost an election, and I'm not going to start now." If elected, Haley would be the nation's first female president and the first U.S. president of Indian descent. No, they're going to AstroTurf Kamala in before that. She'd be the first elected female and Indian president. This, by the way, if they do get this and they AstroTurf her up to the front ahead of Trump, this would be even more reason for Joe Biden to just fall down the stairs so they could take that away from her. So, that is her campaign announcement. Nikki Haley is running for president, joining the War Walrus, Mike Bolton, who the world has forgotten about at this point. But we've already had one notable dissenter from this. I know you guys are going to hate me for this, but we're going to watch The View again. Whoopi Goldberg loses it over Nikki Haley's presidential campaign announcement. "You lost your mind!" From Brandon Gillespie. Whoopi Goldberg was not happy Tuesday about former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley's announcement launching her campaign for president. Goldberg lost it after playing a string of video clips from Haley's new campaign ad during a segment of the show, railing against Republicans for not admitting America was not perfect, and accusing her of no longer knowing right from wrong. Let's just go right into the video, which, because this is archived, we can't watch from here, but I queued it. I queued that right up.
You know, the Republican I hate to ruin it for you, but the Republican playing field for the 2024 presidential race just got a little bigger. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley released a campaign ad making her pitch to the people. Take a look.
My parents reminded me and my siblings every day how blessed we were to live in America. Some look at our past as evidence that America's founding principles are bad. They say the promise of freedom is just made up. Some think our ideas are not just wrong, but racist and evil. Nothing could be further from the truth. Joe Biden's record is abysmal, but that shouldn't come as a surprise. The Washington establishment has failed us over and over and over again. It's time for a new generation of leadership. You should know this about me. I don't put up with bullies. And when you kick back, it hurts them more if you're wearing heels. I'm Nikki Haley, and I'm running for president.
So, Nikki, you know, since you have been asleep all this time and you just woke up, you're just finding out that there are things about our country that are not perfect. And for us to pretend that it is and that nothing happened is ridiculous. So you're not saying anything new. And you, of all people, should know better, because you used to actually have some sanity and knew right from wrong.
Yes,
and then you lost your mind and went in some new direction. So don't do that.
Well, she's...
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's an R next to a person's name, it's never going to be good enough for Whoopi Goldberg. So the way that they put that, though, it kind of makes me think that they're a bit worried about her. I'm not. I know that the appetite in the Republican Party for a war pig like that is not there. I know full well that there's no appetite for a war pig like that in the Republican Party. As much as the mono party tries to astroturf this back in, the appetite among the people is not there. So I'm not worried about Nikki Haley. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think Whoopi is. All right, from CNN, another video that we'll be watching here. Collins asked lawmaker from Nikki Haley's home district if she'll endorse her. See her response. I have not pre-watched this. I don't know what we're about to see. So I'm going to be surprised with you.
Nikki Haley is in. The former South Carolina governor and Trump's ambassador to the United Nations is now running for president in 2024. So who better to talk about all this with than her fellow South Carolinian Republican Congressman Nancy Mace, who represents Haley's home district, we should note. Good morning, Congresswoman, and thank you for joining us on this. You know, Nikki Haley endorsed you in your Republican primary. Are you going to endorse her in this Republican primary?
Oh, that's a great question. It looks like I may or may not have multiple constituents from South Carolina running, but I'll tell you this. Nikki Haley is a very good friend of mine. She's a mentor. She works harder than anybody that I know. And when I had my Republican primary last year with the former president coming after me vigorously, I was one of the only Republicans to beat him in a primary last year. She was one of the only people to return my call. And she was one of the only elected officials with as high a profile as she has who endorsed me, supported me, raised money for me, and took that on with me. And so I have tremendous respect and gratitude and love for her. And I want to see, how the field shakes out and see how it's set. But I will tell you, I have great love for her, and I'm excited to see her enter the race. I've said this multiple times before. I believe Republicans need to have a woman on the ticket in one way or another, and I think she could be fantastic.
She once said she wouldn't run for the Republican nomination if Trump was running. Obviously, he now is, and she is running as well. Are you glad that she changed her mind?
I am glad. And in fact, I said to her personally, a year ago that I hope that she would run no matter what.
Hold on. Let's back it up. Who do you not see there? We've got potentials, Tim Scott, Sununu. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, Mike Sununu, or Chris Sununu rather. Pompeo, Pence, DeSantis, all the usuals. Running, obviously, Nikki Haley, Donald Trump. Who do you famously not see in the running column, even in spite of the fact that he put out his campaign video and said that he's running? The War Walrus, Mike Bolton. John Bolton, rather. Mike Bolton. I'm stuck in the 80s music again. John Bolton, the War Walrus, is gone. In spite of the fact, again, he's famously running for the office.
Personally, a year ago that I hope that she would run no matter what, because it's important for us. I have a daughter. I want to see our daughters have someone to look up to who can be in the White House one day as a woman. I believe it's really important for us to take that step and to be the ones to elect a woman to be president. So from that perspective, I think it's exciting. She's more than qualified for the job. She's got experience on the global scale. She has experience in the executive side of things as a former governor, former UN ambassador. She's got all the qualifications to run for president.
Florida is where woke
goes to die.
And for Governor Ron DeSantis,
Okay, shut up. Nobody likes you. This is going to...
Nikki Haley is...
Yep, there we go. So, yeah. You know who isn't running again? Apparently. Even though I don't know that she knows this or not. From NBC News, Dianne Feinstein announces she will retire from Congress at 89 effing years old. From Rebecca Shabbat, Dianne Feinstein will retire from Congress at the end of 2024 after 3 decades in the Senate. And over 50 years in public office, she announced in a statement on Tuesday. I'm announcing today that I will not run for re-election in 2024, but intend to accomplish as much for California as I can through the end of next year when my term ends, Feinstein says. Feinstein, 89, is currently the oldest sitting member of the upper chamber and the longest-serving senator from her state, first elected to the Senate in 1992. Feinstein had been under pressure for years from other Democrats in the state to make room for a younger generation of legislators who could fill her seat. She had also declined the role in the new Congress of President pro tempore, which has traditionally been the senior member of the majority party since the mid-20th century. Her retirement also opens up her California Senate seat for the first time in decades. A number of House Democrats have either announced the 2024 campaign bid for the seat, including Katie Porter, Adam Schiff. Barbara Lee is also planning on announcing a Senate run by the end of this month, a source familiar confirmed to NBC News. Feinstein has worked under 5 presidential admins and alongside the 2 presidents who also served with her in the Senate, Barack and Joe. She said in her statement Tuesday that she remains focused on passing legislation to address gun violence, promote economic growth, and preserve U.S. lands in her remaining time as senator. Feinstein said she's confident Democrats can achieve those goals because of their previous work. Even with a divided Congress, Sonny, we can still pass bills that will improve lives. Each of us was sent here to solve problems. That's what I've done, Sonny, for the last 30 years, and that's what I plan to do for the next 2 years. Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer applauded Feinstein in a statement saying that she broke the innumerable glass ceilings. When Dianne came to the Senate, there were only 2 women senators. Today there are 25 serving, all of whom stand in some small part on Dianne's shoulders. Over the coming months, I know Dianne will continue to fiercely advocate for women's rights in all aspects of life, unwaveringly represent the people of California. Which, it's time. It's time. Have you seen the photos of her when she was young? When she was first elected to the Senate? Okay, that's like young Dianne Feinstein. That's at the beginning of her career, and that's her now. Term limits when? But the funny part is it seems she's forgotten about the fact that she's not going to run already. Feinstein corrected by staffer about retirement announcement from Jared Gons and Al Weaver. Dianne Feinstein needed to be corrected by a staffer on Tuesday that her office had put out a statement announcing that her decision to retire from the Senate. A reporter asked Feinstein, 89, if she had any messages for her Senate colleagues after her retirement statement was issued by her office. Feinstein asked a reporter what he was referring to, and he responded that he meant about her decision not to run for Senate. Well, Sonny, I haven't made that decision. I haven't released anything. Senator, we put out your statement, a staff member for Feinstein quickly cut in. You put out the statement? I should have known you put it out. Where am I? What year is it? In her statement, Feinstein said that she would finish out her term, which is set to end January 2025, but not run for a re-election next year. Yeah, that's probably a good sign that maybe she shouldn't go finish out her term. Alright, what else do we have? Oh, we've got the train stuff. 4 articles about the train. Yeah, I was gonna say, politics really ages a person. No, time ages a person. You know, like being around since 1934, perhaps. Dianne Feinstein is 50 years older than I am. Probably, because she probably hasn't had her birthday yet this year, neither have I. So she'll be turning 90 and I'll be turning 39. Alright, from CBS Pittsburgh, U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg comments on East Palestine train derailment. Finally, from CBS News Pittsburgh. We might watch this. No, it looks like he just tweeted about it. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg has finally commented on the train derailment in East Palestine that took place 10 days ago. Secretary Buttigieg took to Twitter Monday, saying he remains concerned about families impacted. Well, you know, I will continue to be concerned about the impacts of the February 3rd train derailment near East Palestine, Ohio, and the effects of families in the 10 days since their lives were upended through no fault of their own. It's important that families have access to useful and accurate information. Wants them to make sure they have access to useful and accurate information. Buttigieg went on to say the EPA is on site and monitoring indoor and outdoor air quality to test for VOCs and other chemicals of concern. Yeah, Pete, that's just a little bit too little too late. On the Daily Wire. No one is buying it. Buttigieg's statement on train derailment falls flat. From Virginia Recruta. He's on Meet the Depressed. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg finally issued a statement on the train derailment in Ohio on Monday evening. But as his statement came a full 10 days after the derailment occurred, critics were less than impressed with his response. Buttigieg delivered his comments via Twitter Monday evening, stating that the Department of Transportation was working alongside both the National Transportation Safety Board and the EPA in an effort to determine when and how these who had evacuated the area could safely return to their homes. Yeah, we read that already. He went on to state that hazmat teams had been deployed shortly after the train derailed and had continued to monitor the situation in the days since. Department of Transportation has been supporting the investigation led by the NTSB, who, by the way, they have their hands in each other's pants. Anybody who has a CDL knows that. Our Federal Rail Administration and Pipelines and Hazardous Materials teams were on site within hours of the initial incident and continue to be actively engaged. We will look to these investigation results and, based on them, use all relevant authorities to ensure accountability and continue to support safety. In the meantime, our federal partners at the EPA are on site and monitoring indoor and outdoor air quality to test for VOCs and other chemicals of concern. Self-described liberal Clifton Duncan was not buying Buttigieg's assessment of the situation, saying in a tweet, What strikes me about this response, posted 10 days after the initial incident, is its lack of urgency. Pete is concerned various agencies are monitoring or investigating the situation. At thread's end, there was a wan assurance things are fine, no one is buying it. Vincent Kennedy added, "It's 10 days later, now Pete talks. We have to be getting punked or in real world impractical jokers. Maybe making themselves look bad is part of the ritual punishment," Vince Kennedy added. "This is such a fascinating moment in history because some of us realize we're at an inflection point, and some of us are still running on autopilot. Buttigieg became Secretary of Transportation because people think this crap runs itself. Came from political math. This was the sit back and chill job." At 8:24 p.m., 10 days after the train derailment, Transportation Secretary Buttigieg sent his first tweets about the derailment, starting the thread by saying he continues to be concerned. Chris Geider tweeted. So that's coming from the peanut gallery, but an actual representative in the government also got into it. GOP rep rips Pete Buttigieg for ignoring Ohio train derailment, turning his back on Middle America. Yeah, that's pretty much what the Democrat Party has been doing. Hold on. She was involved in politics for 27.5% of the life of this entire country. Which, yeah, she got involved in public policy in 1955. Hold on. Yeah, that math checks out. That's an interesting take. Thank you, Grant. Mike Turner of Ohio sounded the alarm over the Ohio train derailment that the spill toxic chemicals after the residents reported sickness in dead animals. Telling Varney and Company, Transportation Secretary Buttigieg has ignored the accident and turned his back on Middle America. This is a relatively frequent occurrence, not to this scale, but throughout the Midwest, as we have lots of trains that are traversing with hazardous materials that go through towns, sometimes cities, that could impact the health of the people that are there. The Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, ought to be on this. He's been ignoring this. I think it shows that he turns his back on Middle America when they have a crisis like this. But this is one where it shows that, the people who are affected get very little information. This needs to be fixed. The Department of Transportation needs to have a greater awareness of the risk and of where these hazardous materials are and how they can affect communities. And he's right. I mean, the government doesn't care about Middle America. They care about what's happening in California and Boston and DC and Florida and things like that. But, I mean, the rest of us out here, we're on our own. Which is fine, I like that, except for the fact that they want more of our money to tackle their pet projects in California and Seattle and Boston and DC and Florida. Good on Mike Turner for that. I don't know how much else I agree with Mike Turner on, but good on Mike Turner for that. And from an interesting angle, Pete Buttigieg getting slammed by Omar. From Ben Ziesloft, Ilhan Omar pushes Buttigieg for direct action after Ohio train derailment. Again, no video. Ilhan Omar expressed concern over the Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine and called on Transportation Secretary Buttigieg to address the crisis. Local and state officials evacuated all the residents within a mile of the crash and started to control burn of the chemical spill during the incident to lower the risk of an explosion. And we know about that. On Monday, Omar called on lawmakers to examine the incident and recommended that Buttigieg take direct action to address the situation. East Palestine railroad derailment will have significant negative impact on health and well-being of residents for decades, and there's almost zero national media attention? Ilhan, that's by design. You should know this by now. The remarks came as several Republicans criticized Buttigieg for remaining silent on the incident, which occurred on February 3rd. The official appeared at the National Association of Counties conference on Monday to discuss matters such as racial equity in the construction sector, even as he failed to mention the crisis. He broke his silence on the derailment on Monday evening by promising that he would continue to be concerned about the impacts of the derailment on local families in the 10 days, since their lives were upended through no fault of their own. Other leftists have been critical of Buttigieg in the past. Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, which I always think is a Bajoran name, but it's not. He's just a jerkwad progressive from California. Asserted at the end of last year that Buttigieg failed to prevent the Southwest Airlines meltdown that had left thousands of passengers stranded during the holidays. Sanders had asked Buttigieg 6 months earlier to consider rules under which his agency would require airlines to promptly refund passengers for flights that have been delayed for over an hour, as well as impose fines for flights that are delayed for more than 2 hours, and for scheduling flights that are unable to properly staff. Yeah, he's not doing a good job. He really isn't. But, you know, what qualifications did he have? Let's be honest. A little bit on the balloons thing, because, you know, now we gotta train for that, which I'm, again, not opposed to. From WUSA 9, NORAD air defense exercises in DC area scheduled for early Tuesday. From Matt Pusatori. If you spot some fighter jets on our Coast Guard helicopters in the sky over DC late Monday and into Tuesday, do not be alarmed. This is only a drill. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, will conduct Exercise Falcon, Virgo, a light fly air defense exercise on Tuesday between midnight and 2:30 a.m. in the National Capital Region. Oh, I bet you that's going to go over real well. Midnight to 2 a.m. with jets breaking the sonic barrier. Probably flying really low too, I'm guessing. I know what that's like when the jet flies really low. Again, I don't know where they were originating from, but I know that they used to run drills over my house when I was a kid. I actually don't know where the Air Force Base is near here. I'm gonna ask somebody about that, because I do remember them running drills over the house. And sometimes they got low enough that if I knew what I was looking for, I probably could have seen the tail numbers. Well, if I knew what I was looking for and they were going slow enough, I should say, because, yeah, typically you saw the jet and then you didn't hear the noise until after the jet had disappeared over the bluff. Under the direction of the continental U.S. NORAD region, aircraft participating in the exercise will include Air Force F-16 fighter jets, Coast Guard MH-65D Dolphin helicopter, U.S. Army C-12 aircraft, and Civil Patrol Cessna 182T and general aviation aircraft. Some portions of the exercise may involve flights at approximately 2,500 feet. Yeah, they're going to be flying real low and may be visible from the ground. If weather prevents these regularly scheduled flights, the exercise is scheduled to commence the next day at the same time, NORAD said in a press conference. Well, I mean, it's nice that they're taking security seriously after having 4 balloons violate airspace. I'm sure they're waiting to make sure that nothing gets back over the White House, whether identified or not. NORAD says these types of exercises are routine and are conducted with various scenarios, including airspace restriction violations, hijackings, and response to unknown aircraft. I think that last one's going to be the big one. So, if you're in DC, you're probably not going to get a lot of sleep tonight. Alright, let's get to some of the stuff that I actually wasn't able to get to yesterday. got some time here. A little bit of Ukraine stuff. We don't talk about the Ukraine very much anymore. It's still going. But we don't get a lot of news unless we're about to go send a bunch of tanks and jets over there. From Fortune. Let me just make sure this isn't paywalled. Yes, thank you. Elon Musk insists he's restricting Ukraine's access to Starlink because Zelensky could start World War III. Yeah, I actually think that's a legitimate concern. I must be pro-Putin or something. From Christian Hetzner. Elon Musk has a message for whoever might blame him for the Third World War erupting over Ukraine. It's not his fault. In fact, his decision to restrict Ukrainian access to his communications tech, he's disabling satellite broadband for use for any potential strikes on Russian soil. Could help prevent the conflict from spiraling out of control, if you ask him, that is. The serial entrepreneur has become a vital player in Ukraine's defense thanks to his Starlink service, which has enabled communications for its soldiers all the way up to the front line since last March. But Musk has complained about the cost of his pro bono technology, at one point tweeting that the cost to his company SpaceX would exceed $100 million by the end of the year. Briefly, he even floated the idea that U.S. taxpayers foot the bill before dropping the idea. On Sunday, Musk didn't cite any objections over any financial hit from providing the coverage. Instead, he argued that restricting Kiev's communications will prevent the regional conflict from evolving into something worse. His specific worry is that his satellite-based broadband provider could be used to mount long-range drone strikes in Russia. That might herald a new, more horrific phase of the war in early December. Kiev hit 2 targets, hundreds of miles from its border, a politically controversial issue that some argue could transform a war of liberation into an offensive one. We will not enable escalation of a conflict that may lead to World War III, he posted on Sunday. Scott Kelly tweets out, Elon Musk, Ukraine desperately needs your continued support. Please restore the full functionality of your Starlink satellites. Defense from genocidal invasion is not an offensive capability, it's survival. Innocent lives will be lost. Won't you think of the children? You can help. Thank you. Musk tweets back, you're smart enough to not swallow media and other propaganda BS. Starlink is the communication backbone of the Ukraine, especially at the front lines, where almost all the other internet connectivity has been destroyed. But we will not enable escalation of a conflict that may lead to World War III. Russia has also threatened to shoot down Musk's Starlink satellites in low Earth orbit, claiming they are a legitimate military target. They've got a point. They do. The world's second richest person has become increasingly concerned about the prospects of a broader conflagration. Musk has issued warnings of a global nuclear war from longtime associate David Sachs, like himself and Peter Thiel, a member of Silicon Valley's so-called PayPal mafia. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to this. Again, I think communication should be out there for everybody. I really do. But anything that goes to Zelensky is being used in the offensive at this point. And he is not making any bones about it. He's not trying to hide that fact. So this could turn into something very bad in the very near future, and I don't want to see it. This follow-up article, I just want to double check on this one to see if there's more to this than just the Twitter. Yeah, I'm going to skip this one, because this is just basically news on the tweet. Let's talk about the Marquis Dem bill from Politico. Mansions raising hell, or White House's handling of the Marquis Dem bill. From Burgess Everett. President Brandon and Joe Manchin met at the White House about a month ago on a topic that's critically important to the West Virginia senator, implementing the sweeping tax, climate, and healthcare law that both men shaped. And if you ask Manchin, things have not gone well since that huddle. That's because the West Virginia Democrat is livid about his party's president and admin are rolling out a party line bill that served as a crowning achievement for both men. And he's particularly peeved at the delay in new guidelines on who gets the law's generous electric vehicle tax credits. In addition to lobbying the president at the previously unreported January 3rd sit-down, Manchin has introduced a bill that would halt the credits until Treasury Secretary Yellen implements strict requirements for electric vehicle battery sourcing. As Manchin sees it, using the credit to boost U.S. manufactured rather than overseas-made vehicles is essential to making the law succeed. He has even talked directly to Yellen several times about the matter, summing up his approach of late. Manchin said, "I've been raising hell. They almost act like they gotta send $7,500 a person or a person won't buy a car." Which is crazy, ludicrous thinking for the federal government, Manchin said in an interview this week. "I just totally and absolutely am disagreeing with what they're doing." A frustrated Manchin is nothing new for Democrats, but the current situation is plainly untenable for them. He's still undecided on re-election next year in a state that's critical to keeping the Senate majority. And as Energy Committee chair, he has the power to wreak havoc by slowing down nominees, hauling in Biden officials for public testimony, and pushing legislation against the admin's wishes. What's more, Manchin's grievances go just beyond the tax credit. He dislikes the public perception of the law. He insisted on calling the Inflation Production Act, which he sees as an energy security measure rather than a climate change fighting one. A distinction with a political difference in deep-red fossil fuel state like West Virginia. Notably, the Manchin-backed law also requires new sales of oil and gas leases that his progressive colleagues might otherwise have opposed. So as he weighs a bid for re-election, he's touting the power of the bill, and he wrote in order to puncture Democrats' hopes of ending U.S. reliance on fossil fuels. I mean, he's right to be pissed about it. It was a bad bill. It's got his name on it, and I mean, it is going to be seen as inflationary and devastating to the economy. So, good on him. Some good news for you. We've had bad news for so long, let's have some good news. Identities of Epstein's associates to be made public in newly released documents, report says. From Zachary Rogers. A fresh batch of names belonging to associates of deceased sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein will be reportedly released soon. Will we, the public, get them? Probably not. In coming months, documents containing the names of associates, victims, and employees of Epstein will be unsealed, according to thedailymail.com. Along with that information will come a few salacious allegations, thedailymail.com reports, adding that one public figure is expected to be involved. I doubt that. A declaration filed on Wednesday says the documents will reportedly refer to alleged perpetrators and accusations of serious wrongdoings by certain individuals, the report claims. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. And we know about Epstein, we know about Ghislaine. Epstein ran in high society circles and was either friends or associates with many public figures. Notable connections include Clinton, Trump, Musk, Gates, and even Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew is expected to be a public figure mentioned in the newly released documents, according to the Daily Mail. As he is accused of having sex with one of Epstein's victims, Virginia Roberts, when she was only 17, Prince Andrew has repeatedly denied the allegations. Now, he was probably banging her when she was 14 too, so... let's see. Other identities belonging to victims of Epstein and others are described as law enforcement officers. So hey, we might know because, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell sitting in prison for trafficking children to nobody. little bit of bad news from CBS. World War II era bomb explodes in England in unplanned detonation. From Carrie Breen. A World War II bomb that was found in Great Yarmouth, England, exploded Friday in what authorities were calling an unplanned detonation. Officials first became aware of the 250 kilogram, or about 550 pound explosive on Tuesday, February 7th, when a contractor who was doing dredging work in the River Yarra discovered it, according to a news release from the city. Emergency services and local authorities declared a major incident and activated emergency plans. An explosive ordnance device team was also summoned to the area. Roads were closed and the immediate area was evacuated. On Friday, work began to disarm the explosive remaining in the device, but it somehow detonated, causing a large explosion that was captured on video by a police drone. The video was shared on Twitter. So, if the evacuation was good, it doesn't look like anybody was likely hurt. Maybe there was a little bit of something going on there with some of the people in the cars, or maybe on the squad, but it does look like they effectively evacuated everybody out. In a news release, officials said the protective sandbox had been built around the bomb in case of an unexpected detonation. That sandbox prevents injuries, and on Twitter, officials say that no one was injured in the day's events. Yeah, I bet it scared the crap out of a lot of people. Evacuation orders have been lifted, and Great Yarmouth Borough Council Chief Executive Sheila Oxtoby thanked community members for their patience and understanding throughout this multi-day process. Boy, this has been an unsettling time for many people, most of all for those who are evacuated from their homes. Safety in the public has been at the heart of the decision-making throughout this multi-agency operation. While it may have been slow, yesterday's afternoon's events show why it was so important to take all the necessary measures to minimize any risk to the public. I'd like to thank everyone involved for bringing this to a safe conclusion, and we will continue to help those residents displaced. It's not clear how many people were displaced due to the explosion. So, I mean, it's exciting. Get rid of that. A little bit of danger going on there, but again, nobody was hurt. So, that's the important part. Because this could have turned out a lot worse. Alright, what else do we have here? Can we get a couple more done before we do Twitter trending and head out of here for the night? From Fox 5 Atlanta. Former Doraville police officer accused of concealing 16-year-old girl's death. Authorities have charged Doraville police officer with concealing the death of a 16-year-old Susanna Morales. By the way, apparently, I know somebody who drives by or rides by this almost daily. I'm not going to say who, because that would be a dox, but apparently I know somebody who is near this, where they found this girl almost every day. Gwinnett County Police identified the officer as Miles Bryant, 22 of Norcross. Detectives developed enough probable cause to get an arrest today, but the investigation is still ongoing, said Gwinnett County Police spokesperson Officer Hideshi Vale. Bryant faces charges of concealing the death of another and false report of crime. This is a very tragic incident, and not just for our community, but the law enforcement community as well, said Officer Valley. Gwinnett Police is determined to get all the facts and all the information to get justice regardless of who the individual is. He is being held at Gwinnett Detention Center without bond. The investigation has been handled by the Gwinnett County Police Department, and I sure wish that they would bring another agency in for this one. But we've been in constant communication with the Doraville Police Department, letting them know the case, Officer Valley said. Seriously, is there any other agency you could bring in for this one? city of Doraville released a statement Monday that reads, "The city of Doraville was notified the afternoon of Monday, February 13th, that a now former police officer was being served felony arrest warrants by the Gwinnett Police Department in connection with the disappearance and murder of Susana Morales. The city of Doraville and its police department are fully cooperating with the Gwinnett Police Department in its investigation of Mr. Bryant. Our prayers rest with the family and friends of Susana Morales and everyone else affected by the tragedy." So apparently, in some of the things that are not in this article, is it does look like she was killed. Morales' family told police that they hadn't seen her since the evening of July 26th. That night, detectives said Morales texted her mom at 9:40 p.m. to tell her she was on her way home to Windscape Village Lane. Officials confirmed an app on Morales' cell phone showed that she was walking in that direction between 10:07 and 10:21, but detectives say they have reason to believe she had actually gotten into a vehicle. Between 10:21 and 10:26, her phone indicated she was in the area of Oak Lock Trace and Steve Reynolds Boulevard. Her phone pinged that location until it either died or was turned off. Morales never made it home. On February 6, police responded to the area between Drowning Creek and Barrow County after someone reported seeing what they believed were human remains in the forest. The Gwinnett Medical Examiner's Office tested the remains and said the DNA matched Morales' dental records. So this poor girl was gone for 8 months. No real indication on cause of death or what happened to get us from there to here, but, well, I'd like to see some justice for this one. And we will leave the last 2 articles here for tomorrow. And we're going to look at Twitter trending for the day. So let's get that Explore page up here. I'll get on to trending and see what we've got going on up here. At the end of every Tuesday show, we look at the Twitter trending and see what it is that Twitter thinks that we should be talking about and see how it compares to what we actually talked about. So we will read the top 5 trends, discuss, look at some of the tweets that are in there, and see what's going on with that. One of them is going to be 911 Lone Star. I might actually start skipping that one just because we see it so often. But we'll see what's happening in the world. Number 1, 2.12 million tweets about Valentine's Day, which I guess is today. No, I actually did celebrate Valentine's Day today. Got something sweet for someone very special. Pretty happy about that. Elon Musk says Happy Valentine's Day. Kayleigh McEnany, Happy Valentine's Day, don't love my life, and the greatest father there is. Chris Pratt with a Valentine's Day wish. My love for you is as big as your hair. I don't know who Chris Pratt is married to. I don't recognize this woman. Team 4-Star with a Dragon Ball Z video. Happy Valentine's Day from all of us at TFS. Kayleigh McEnany Fan Club. Nick Adams, this is what true love looks like. Happy Valentine's Day to the most beautiful first couple in American history. Kamala with Doug Emhoff. Mama, her, Happy Valentine's Day, baby. I love you. Also her. This sounds like somebody who probably got hurt on Valentine's Day. And the last one we'll read here is, good night, my sweet friends. I pray you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. God bless you in sweet dreams. Relax and know our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. Indeed. All right, and in sharp contrast to this, trending with JC Jane is WWE NXT. So Ruka's potential really is unlimited. That takes some athletics. That really gives us an idea of what sports entertainment is. Good goodness. Look at her go. Tiffany has the best moonsault on WWE NXT. Apparently the women's match is on tonight. JC Solo Run is going to be so good. I wish I knew something, because this is something that pops up here, some of the factions and whatnot, but, you know, I don't know where the internet viewing of WWE is. I would check it out again. I don't know if I would watch it regularly again, but I would check it out again. I liked WWE when I was a kid. And we saw the moonsault already, and another moonsault again. I don't see what people see here about Jacy Jane. She was never really good in Toxic Attraction. And by the sounds of it, she really scripted with her promo. Going to be a real tough to find success after Mandy. Let's listen to her, and then we'll click off this trend and look at the next one.
You saw me as the one who didn't belong. You called me the third wheel. Which one isn't like the rest? Why is Jacy Jane even in this super group? Well, that super group, Toxic Attraction, went on to become the most dominant female faction in WWE history. And look who's the last woman standing.
Well, apparently the writing hasn't gotten any better since I stopped watching. That was kind of cringe, I'm not going to lie. Alright. Love Camping World is apparently trending with only 1,358 tweets. Win a summer with me. Must retweet and use Love Camping World to tell me why it should be you. From Marcus Lemanis, who I don't know who that is. But let's listen to what one of the entries is.
So in 2012, my husband and I were actually working at Arby's together, and we didn't know each other. I worked with his mother on first shift, and he worked on second shift. And his mother and I were actually really close whenever we worked there, but I never put two and two together that her son worked there. Well, he went off to the military, and I went off and did my own thing. And then back in 2000 and I think it was 16 or 17, we had started working together again at a different place, and sparks flew. We had a connection, but we were both seeing other people, so you know, we kind of flirted a little bit at work, and that was it. Well, 6 months later, we ended up talking again, getting in touch with each other over social media, and it just, that connection has always been there, and so we instantly moved in together. I have a 14-year-old from a previous relationship, and then we now have two boys who are 2 and 1. We haven't looked back, and we have been very happy. It was almost like fate kept bringing us back together, like it was meant to be. So thank you for the opportunity.
It's beautiful, man. That is beautiful. So again, I don't know who Marcus Lemanis is. The altruistic capitalist, the prophet, the renovator on HGTV, and the payoff, cash and effect coming soon. And if you want to spend some time with this dude from HGTV, all you have to do is make a video to tell him why it should be you and use the hashtag LoveCampingWorld. Alright, 911 Lone Star. This program that I know nothing about. Let's see, TK is going to have to see us next because we're about to pass out. Excuse me. No son loved his mother more than TK loved his. Emotional damage. This person just can't handle this, apparently. Not a baby, I'm crying. You saved my life. You saved yourself. Just held on to it for a little while longer. It's yours. 911 Lone Star. So, again, I know nothing about this program. I said this the last time. This kind of looks like this is injecting woke into crime dramas, just from the little video bits that I've seen from it. I don't know if I have interest in this, and I love crime drama. But I don't think I can do this one. But because it probably runs at this time, we're probably going to keep seeing it. At this time when we do Twitter Trending on Tuesdays. Alright, and the last one. Number 5, Why I'm Single. This ought to be some fun. Cassandra says, because I want a real man, not some soy boy or woke loser. Based. Hashtag Why I'm Single. For all the lovers out there, hashtag Why I'm Single, Fallon tonight. Done Laugh at May says, I asked a cute guy if I could borrow a pen. When I finished using it, he smiled and held his hand out. I thought he wanted to hold my hand, so I did. He was just waiting for me to return his pen. Hashtag Why I'm Single. Stay Barefoot says, my girlfriend texted me asking if she had gained weight. I answered no, but it auto-corrected to moo. So I'm single again. That's actually funny. I like that. Charlie CK4 says, or 14 rather, says, according to my ex, it's because I don't listen, or something like that. I don't know why I'm single. And Ryan Rawlings says, even though I tell myself not to. At the end of every first date, I blurt out, good night, I love you. Hashtag Why I'm Single. Jet says, I'm a 50-year-old divorced cat mom and I have this in my kitchen. I don't think it's a mystery. Yeah, I could see that. Me shooting my shot. Oh! Me shooting my shot on Valentine's Day. Why I'm single. What did you think was going to happen? Just out of curiosity. And how deep is that hole? Somebody want to go check on that dude? Let's see. DJX Gaming says, because I like to buy things I want, for example, see photo. I didn't have to ask or explain myself to anyone. Hashtag Why I'm Single. My son thinks he's still single because I look young for my age and I'm with him a lot. People always think I'm his wife or girlfriend. He blames me. I'm 55, which I actually don't think I would believe that. I don't know how many filters are on that picture, but I could see that actually. Daffy Dano says, after bartending 30 years at upscale hotel bars, I simply hate people. Well, you'll get there. Hopefully most. Juice 2.0 says, gotta be why I'm single. With a picture that says, I said, bring back pads with wings, and this MF man, you know what? Kinda wanna save that one. Well, this is actually our last trend anyway, so. This one's going in the funny papers. I like that one. That's funny. All right, and with that, we are out of here. With that fun reference, we're out of here. A little bit of Gerudo Valley to finish us out of here. But yeah, let's throw the outro music up and let's go. That's funny. I like that. All right, so thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. It was a bit busy tonight. Looks like we had some good numbers here tonight. Kind of tapered off at the end, but we're going to head out of here for the night. Thanks everybody. Again, we will be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, more contemporary, and more fun. Plus, we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity, which I think will be nice as well. So come back and join us here, 6 p.m. Central Time, for more news and more headlines. I think we're going to talk about, well, I know what we're going to talk about at least a little bit here. New gun law about domestic violence abusers, or a bill rather, not a law. And the man that attacked Representative Angie Craig got arrested. We'll be talking about that. plus probably some things with the DC and some of the complaints about that. We'll be talking about the trains, I'm guessing, again, and a slew of other things. We'll see what happens in the next 22 hours. Looking forward to that. We will be here late in the evening for your evening news. Take care, have fun, be good, and don't throw your back out doing something I wouldn't do tonight for Valentine's Day. We'll see you here tomorrow for more Contemporary, and until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.